Hi guys. So today I'm going to be sharing some intuitive guidance for the upcoming summer 2026 season. And with that, I sort of tune into the collective energies. And the summer energy is really about, growth and activity and expansion. And when we plant something in a garden, we have to sort of tend to it to get it to grow, right? And the same holds true for us as we walk our healing path. We plant these little seeds throughout, and if we don't, really tend to our inner world, then things can sort of get suppressed or they don't bloom to their full potential. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing 3 areas that spirit is sort of guiding us to tune into, to focus in on, to help grow and support us on our healing path. Okay? So, the overarching sort of message with all of this that I'm going to be sharing today, the sort of power statement, I guess you could call it, that sort of came through with this was we can sit and wait or we can create. Now, when you think of creation, a lot of times we maybe think of like creating art or creating music or creating things, right? Well, this isn't really about things. Creation is deeper than that too, right? It's internal as well, right? The life we live, we're creating. Every creation starts on the inside of us, right? It starts with our emotions, it starts with our perceptions, it stems from our attitudes, our beliefs. All those things are internal aspects of us that are then being expressed into the outer world. It also sort of, in a way, colors how we see the world, right? How we perceive the world. And really our outer experience in life is almost like a reflection of the inner state of our energy. So if we have things in our life that are maybe not to our liking, then it's not always about shifting what's on the outside. We want to go within and we want to start the process there because that's the sort of root level of change to begin to make changes in our outer world. Okay? I really define creativity as this sort of ability to open our heart center and create space within us. And as we create space within us, then the world doesn't really shift and shake us so much, right? When things happen. And it really is about our ability to use our own energy, our own inner energy, in a way that really fulfills us and brings us joy in our life. So when I was sort of tuning into this, open heart center energy, I got this image of a crowded room, right? Have you ever been in a crowded room where there's a ton of people, or let's say like going to the mall or something like that? Everybody's funneled in this one space, like lots of people funneled in a sort of smaller confined area. And maybe leaving there, you feel a lot more drained. You don't feel like you have a lot of energy. It's this sort of constriction that happens, and this sort of clash of the different energies of different people kind of coming together. And we're sort of mashed into this tight space, right? And when we, begin to open our heart space, the image I get of that is like maybe standing in an open field. You feel the breeze on you, you're surrounded by nature, and it feels very relaxing and refreshing. And you feel more lively than you feel drained versus the other sort of visual, right? And so when we begin to create more room in our heart space, it's almost as if we can be in this crowded room and we feel like we're in the open field, right? That being said, the energy of the next 3 months is sort of supporting you in letting go of some of this old stuff that maybe you're holding on to, because we have to release stuff to make room for new and better stuff, right? So let's go ahead and get into those 3 areas. So the first area of attention is about alignment. And this is alignment in relation to the things that we own, the things that are in our immediate environment, whether it be furniture, objects, our possessions or clothes, any of these things. And there's an invitation here to begin to start cleaning those up, But I don't mean this in a way of like spring cleaning, tossing, okay, that can go, that can go, that can go. We really want to take the time to see what feelings come about with each of these objects, right? These are things that came into our life, so they came into our life for a reason, and we have to look at the emotional reason that we keep these things around. Now I'm going to give you a little example, a personal example from my own experience. So my grandpa passed away in 2008, and there was one furniture item that I kept of his, and it was his roll top desk. It was an older one. It was very heavy and clunky and honestly not that functional. Like, you would go to sit in it, but none of the chairs would really slide into the opening, and the drawers were just heavy and they would get stuck, and there was nothing really functionally nice about it. And we moved, and I even took that thing with me, and let me tell you, that thing was a pain in the butt to move, and it sat in my office for quite a few years. And I just realized one day that, I don't know, I was just like, the reason I was holding on to it was because I missed my grandfather. To me, it had this emotional connection, and I wasn't really ready to let it go, because I was still processing some of the grief that I had from losing him. But there came a day when I was ready to let it move on to somebody else who would love it and appreciate it way more than I was doing. Okay? So as you're cleaning and going through things, it's really about doing that, right? About feeling what emotions come up. Why are we hanging on to this? What memories is it bringing up for us? And that can stir up some of that sort of suppressed or stifled down emotions or traumas or any of those things, right? We want to bring those up to the surface. We want to bring them into our awareness so that we can release them and then release the objects. Because if we don't tend to that, then we might just bring other things to fill the void, right? We create space by clearing up those deep emotions, and what that does is it sort of allows these more smoother, free-flowing energies to take its place. If we replace clutter with clutter, or I should say emotional clutter with emotional clutter, then we're not really creating true space within us, okay? And there was one more thing here that wanted to sort of come forward, so I'm just going to mention it as well, is regarding food. Now, a lot of times we, let's say we go out grocery shopping, and, we don't have anything in the house, and so we go out, we get groceries, and then we bring back home, but we open our freezer, we put away our groceries, and we literally have like a freezer full of food already. So there's also this invitation, a little side note here, to maybe look, instead of, planning our meals around, okay, what do we want this week? Maybe looking to see what we have already in our pantry, in our freezer, in our fridge, and getting creative, right? There's that creativity coming through. Getting creative and seeing what meals we can make that include the things that we already have, and then correlate our grocery shopping with maybe a few small items that we need to supplement. So, I don't know who needs to hear that, but there you go. Let's get creative with our resources. Okay, so number 2. This is, I would say, the realm of spirit, right? Nourishing the spirit. And the word that came through with this is grief. but not grief in like the sense that we might think, right? We lost someone and we're really grieving. Yes, that is a valid type of grief, but the type of grief that is coming through specifically for what I want to talk about is hidden grief. You know, as we go through life and experience life, we accumulate a lot of emotions, right? We accumulate a lot of maybe trauma, and then we stifle it down and just sort of let it linger below the surface. And it's not that it's there. How can I say this? It's not that it's there without showing itself. The hidden grief aspect is how it appears in our life in a sort of hidden way, okay? In ways that maybe we don't immediately recognize it. Okay, that's the word I'm looking for. So I'll share two different ways that sort of want to come through for this. You know, one is repressive and one is the sort of reactive way, I guess we'll call it. And the repressive way is where maybe we had this really difficult childhood, for example, and we paint this rosy picture of this ideal, this ideal upbringing. You know, we had this great house and my parents used to, do all these activities with me and this and that. But then in the next hand, let's say, my dad was a raging alcoholic and he would get really angry over small things. And, it was kind of like walking on eggshells. But my childhood was great, right? It's that sort of repressive nature where, yes, maybe we did have great aspects of our childhood. I'm sure even those of us who had not so good childhoods can find, some bright spots within that. Okay, so I'm not dismissing that or invalidating that in any way, but there's a certain part of that, that painful part that also needs to be felt and expressed. Because if we don't do that, then it's taking up space. It's taking up energetic real estate within us, right? So we want to begin to tune into that. And it's not in a negative way towards our parents or towards whoever, I say parents because a lot of times our traumas maybe stem from childhood and maybe parental relations, right? Those are, the big sort of growth and learning factor that we come with in our life. But you can fill that in with whoever or whatever the case may be for you. If we don't, allow these emotions to be expressed, then they sort of create blockages in our energy and they sort of settle. I look at it like settling to the bottom, like sediment on the bottom of a pond, right? It can really muck up the water. And we want to sort of dredge that up so that we can have a clean, healthy system. Okay? Now, the other side of that, the reactive nature, this is the, the blame game, right? This is the victim. This is the, so-and-so is so bad and I can't believe that they were like this. This is, all the bad things in my life are because of, my parents doing X, Y, and Z. And it can really come through as anger, really deep-seated anger. When I tune into an image of this particular energy, I guess, I get this sort of image of like a bed of hot coals, and it's really kind of frenetic, almost like heat. You never know which way the fire of the candle is going to sway, right? It's very frenetic. It's very chaotic in a lot of ways, and it can send off these like embers and sparks into the air. And internally, that's kind of what it can sort of feel like, and it expresses itself through this sort of righteous anger or this tension, okay? But underneath that anger, if we set our, intention, bring our awareness underneath that, then we will find that grief lying below, okay? Both of these want to have that hidden grief unearthed and coming up to the surface to be felt, expressed, and released. And we don't need to cultivate a relationship with our parents or with the other person. It's not even about them. This is an inner process, okay? This isn't about coming to terms with things or the other person, whoever it may be, realizing what they've done or what they were like. It absolutely has nothing to do with that. So I want to just be really clear about that. This is about honoring our own inner emotions. And when we do that, it's almost like it releases these parts of us that we've just sort of held down for so long. We might find magically that as we do this, if we have strained relationships with the other person or people, we might actually find that it begins to get a little bit better, because we're not holding on to so much tension. And like I mentioned with the crowded room versus the open field, we can be within that sort of tense space, but we feel like we're in an open field. So the relationship dynamic doesn't feel like it has so much friction. Okay, number 3, the last one here is, this has to do with the sort of mind, okay, and our thoughts and what we think about ourselves and what thoughts we're carrying through the day. And the invitation here is to look at where you're suppressing your own fire. That's funny that we go from fire to fire. And, fire is like, to me, think of it as like that passion, that inner passion. And when we have things that we dream about doing in our life or changes we really want to make and we suppress it, we talk ourselves out of it, we tell ourselves, well, I need this and that before I can do that, or I'm not good enough to do that, or, all these lies that we tell ourselves, these beliefs that we hold on to. We might place in our mind that, for example, I want to take a trip somewhere, but I need money to do it. Okay, well, that is a limitation that we put on ourselves, that we can only travel if we have money, right? Well, there's been plenty of people around the world who, I think there was this one guy, I don't know if he did like a documentary or wrote a blog or story. Anyway, he literally left with $1 in his pocket and went to go travel the world and did that for a very long time. And there's so many people out there who do a lot with so very little because, blessings and resources and all those things can come to us from so many different avenues. And it's really our own inner thoughts and beliefs that restrict us from receiving them, okay? And so the invitation here is to begin to look at the areas in your own life that maybe you're putting limitations on yourself. So in the area of, passion and what you want to do, that's sort of an opening to begin to start to contemplate that, okay? So take some time to either journal or write it out. And, what's something you've always wanted to do that you've held off on doing? What's the reason you've held off on doing? And then see where that takes you to deeper inner narratives within your mind, okay? And so I'll finish talking about this by giving an example for myself. This was actually just happened a few months ago, and I really wanted a new area rug for my living room, but I wasn't really wanting to go out spending the money for it. It was more of a want, not a need. So, for me, I'm like, well, I'll just wait and see what comes around. There's Facebook groups, local Facebook groups that sometimes post free stuff, and maybe it'll come through there, but we'll see. Well, a few weeks later, I got a call from my mom, and she was like, oh yeah, they just dropped off this rug and told me that I could either keep it or give it away or throw it out because I guess it was just going to cost them too much to have her return it or go pick it back up than it would be just to let her keep it. And I was like, a rug? Well, what size? What colors? And sure enough, it was the exact size I needed, and it was the exact color scheme that matched my living room. And so I got this rug completely free. And yeah, if I had just in my mind been like, well, I need to save my money to get a new rug, then perhaps this opportunity wouldn't have come to pass, right? We open ourselves up to whatever opportunity, whatever way Spirit wants to bring us something, then we can really create that space to allow blessings and growth and all these things to come into our life in ways that maybe we don't even can't even imagine in our own mind, right? So think about the ways that maybe you're having, creating these limiting thoughts or holding on to these limiting thoughts in your own mind, and just begin to bring awareness to them, right? That's always the first step, because if we don't see it, then we can't heal it or transform it, right? So I want to end our time together by sharing a little, I guess you could call it like a spoken narrative or a poem that I wrote that really brings it back to that sort of overarching topic that we talked about in the beginning. We can sit and wait, or we can create, right? So, the main idea with this is creating the life we want from within, right? Taking control of our life and bringing the power back into us. That was the sort of topic of the spring guidance that came through in the last video. And so this is just sort of blossoming from that, right? Those seeds that we planted within us, that power that we planted, we want to bring it to grow and to bloom and tend to it, right? Through our awareness and intentional actions, okay? So I'll go ahead and share this. And, the title that came through for this is You Are the Hero You've Been Waiting For. You are the hero you've been waiting for. We came into this life small and helpless, like a small boat on a rough sea, tossed around by the whims of the ocean, but we all came here with one condition. We've all agreed to forget, to become someone we've never met, to live a life of fear, shame, blame, regret, until we seek the hero that can help us yet. You are the hero you've been waiting for. I see your light glowing bright, but do you see it? We all get to a point where enough is enough. There must be more to life than fear and pain and struggle and strife. Begin the climb, don't be afraid, to find the light from which you came, to shed the fear, release the blame. You are the hero you've been waiting for. We all begin seeking the answers in others, finding a path that will fix our hurts, the teacher, the guru, the perfect book, the quick fix course that will transform our pain for us, like a bright neon sign that reads, "This way to enlightenment." Maybe the next one will work, or the next, or the next. But the teacher is not the path. The guru is not the source. They are but signposts that you have placed on your path to help you remember your own light, to adjust your eyes, to heal your sight, to help you through the darkened night. Then with love and blessings, they wave goodbye when the time is right. You are the hero you've been waiting for. Do you feel it now, your spirit within? What you seek is not outside. It's hidden in plain sight, within the shadows of your heart, with every feeling that you feel. When we stop fighting, stop avoiding, stop running, stop fixing, and begin honoring and allowing and feeling and opening our heart. We begin to uncover the light we so longingly seek. It's in the dark, buried deep. Don't be afraid to go within, for at darkness' end does light begin. Fear is but love turned upside down, which love of self can turn around. The journey's yours, embrace them all, the parts of you from within that call. So if someone tells you you must turn left, take pause and listen. Your heart knows best. For no two footprints are the same, and no one else can tell you your name. You are the hero you've been waiting for. Many small steps equal big transformation in our lives. So keep going, keep healing, and don't be afraid to go within. If you enjoyed today's content, please consider a like and subscribe. I appreciate the support for my channel. If you want to follow along more with my work, then you can subscribe to my monthly newsletter. And if you want one-to-one support on your healing path, I do offer healing services, and you can find all that information on my website, thespiritwithin.com. I'll put the link in the description below. Until we see each other again, y'all take care. Bye, guys.